I sat on the edge of the stiff hospital bed, the antiseptic scent hanging heavy in the air, infiltrating my senses. The fluorescent lights hummed incessantly overhead, casting harsh shadows across the sterile walls. I fidgeted with the scratchy hospital gown, the thin fabric providing no comfort against the cold, clinical atmosphere. As I glanced around, anxiety clenched at my chest. This place always had a way of amplifying fears, heightening every sensation. My backstory was unremarkable. A routine checkup had escalated into an unexpected overnight stay due to chest pains. I'm young, healthy, or so I thought, so the doctor's concern was unsettling. Throughout the night, eerie sounds echoed through the corridors, the taps of shoes against linoleum floors growing louder. Yet whenever I glanced outside my room, there was no one. My imagination ran wild, conjuring images of lurking figures in the shadows, unseen eyes watching from the darkness. Each creak of the old building felt like a sinister whisper, urging me to flee. But it was the unsettling silence that unnerved me most. Nurses hurried past my room, their faces a mix of concern and something else, something inscrutable that sent shivers down my spine. Despite my pleas, they remained tight-lipped about what was happening. My heart raced with a growing sense of dread, amplified by the inexplicable events unfolding in this clinical maze. Suddenly, the monitors hooked up to me started beeping wildly, breaking the eerie stillness. Panic surged through me as a rush of medical staff poured into the room, their urgent movements a blur around me. Their faces were a mask of frantic concentration, devoid of the reassurance I desperately sought. Amidst the chaos, I caught fragments of hurried conversation, words like code blue and emergency punctuating the air. Fear consumed me as I struggled to comprehend what was happening. A cold sweat broke across my brow, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. I tried to speak, to ask for an explanation, but my voice failed me. The sterile room felt like a prison, the sharp scent of disinfectant choking me. It was a nightmare, a surreal descent into a realm where logic fractured and time seemed to stretch infinitely. The flurry of activity around me intensified, the urgency palpable. I felt disconnected, an unwilling spectator to the unfolding drama. In that suspended moment, a sudden clarity washed over me, a realization that my life teetered on the edge of uncertainty. The blaring alarms echoed in my ears as consciousness slipped away, leaving behind a haunting void. Hours later, I awoke to a hushed room, the frantic energy replaced by an eerie stillness. Weak sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a feeble glow on the sterile surroundings. The doctor stood at the foot of my bed, a mixture of relief and concern etched on their face. Their explanation was clinical, devoid of details, a sudden heart scare, narrowly averted. I was stable now, they assured me, but the unspoken words lingered in the air, leaving me haunted by the chilling events that unfolded in the hospital's unsettling embrace. The hospital corridors stretched on like endless tunnels, the muted lighting casting long shadows that danced along the sterile walls. The scent of antiseptic hung thick in the air, triggering a flood of memories, the kind that clutches at your heart. My father, once a tower of strength, now lay in a small, dimly lit room, frail and pale against the stark white sheets. His illness, a cruel twist of fate, had stripped him of vitality, leaving behind a hollow shell of the man I'd known. The backstory, a timeline etched in worry and sorrow, unfolded as I sat by his bedside. Months of decline, dashed hopes, and the agonizing helplessness of watching a loved one slip away. Nurses bustled in and out, their kind smiles failing to ease the heaviness in my chest. My father's weak voice strained against the silence, his words laced with the weight of mortality. Time crawled by, each passing moment bringing us closer to an outcome I dreaded to face. The room felt suffocatingly small, the beeping monitors a constant reminder of the fragile thread holding on to life. I gripped my father's hand, a feeble attempt to anchor myself in a reality spiraling out of control. As the night wore on, a sense of foreboding settled over me, a premonition lingering at the edges of my consciousness. Whispers of despair seemed to echo in the hollow spaces between heartbeats. The hospital, once a beacon of healing, now felt like a mausoleum where hope dwindled with every passing second. I gazed out the window, the moon casting a ghostly pallor on the deserted streets below, a stark contrast to the turmoil within. And then it happened. A sudden silence that pierced through the sterile hum of medical equipment. Panic seized the air, nurses rushing in with urgency etched on their faces. My father's grip on my hand weakened, his breaths becoming shallow, labored. The world seemed to blur as medical personnel swarmed the room, their frantic efforts a chaotic ballet of desperation. The room crackled with an energy both frenzied and solemn, the grim reality of impending loss palpable in the air. My heart clenched as I watched, helpless, a spectator to the unraveling of a life I held dear. In that suspended moment, time stood still, every beat of my heart a silent prayer for a different outcome. But fate, relentless in its course, had other plans. As the chaos ebbed away, leaving behind a hollow emptiness, the doctor's somber expression confirmed what I already knew. My father, the cornerstone of my world, had slipped away, leaving behind a void that echoed with the haunting finality of loss. The hospital room, once a battleground between life and death, now held only memories, fragments of a bond that transcended the boundaries of mortality.